And let me just share my screen and change tabs when it will let me. Oh, that spacebar thing keeps dropping down and I can't change the tab. Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing, change it, and then share. Great start to recording that. Okay, can you all see the Canvas screen? So thanks for coming to the Handover Sustainability Workshop. I assume you can all hear me because you're just nodded. And we are recording, so we can whiz through this bit. Already winning. So if you're happy to shout out, could you let me know what you guys want from this session? Like, why are you here today?
Basically, me and my committee are final years, and so far we've really struggled this year with like volunteer engagement and involvement. And I know that the rest of my committee will be moving on, but I'm going to try and stay on for another year into my masters.
Cool.
And basically, I'm in a situation where I don't know if I can get enough volunteers to form a committee for next year, basically.
How many people do you need for your SU to keep you affiliated?
I'm not actually sure.
Okay.
If I don't know if I'm going to be allowed to do this, but if worst comes to worst, then I'll do it by myself. Okay.
I mean, from a Marek perspective, you're absolutely more than welcome to do it by yourself. And technically, you don't need to be affiliated with your SU to, you know, still post stuff on social media from your Marek accounts. But yeah, we'll talk about affiliation stuff, and that's definitely something we can help with. But yeah, thank you for sharing that. Does anyone else have any anything else or similar?
Yeah, I think sort of similar to Lewis. Like, we haven't got like everyone graduating, but like a lot of our committee are like med students who are like spending a lot more time in their degree, or like PhD students like myself. So yeah, it's sort of, we'd like a bigger committee just for time management. But we're also having trouble with volunteer engagement and retention.
Yeah.
Yeah, again, similar situation in Sheffield. We operate both at Uni of Sheffield and Sheffield Hallam, and Sheffield Hallam SU require 4 committee members to be affiliated with the uni, and I'm not sure we'll find 4 people. We've struggled to get volunteers that are students at Sheffield Hallam, so something I'm going to try during the Freshers Fair as well. But
yeah. Cool, thank you. Anyone else? Any other thoughts? I know now, Marge, you're eating. So should we come back to you once you've stopped chewing? I realise that requires you to say yes or no too.
I think for me, I just need to make sure that my committee have they know what they're doing next year, because I won't be there to help them. Yeah, so I just need to make sure that they know just everything that they need to know. Okay, fab.
Thank you. Well, that's really helpful. That will show me exactly what to whiz through and what to spend more time on. But like I said, yeah, shout if you want me to do anything a little bit more thoroughly. Anything kind of resonates where you go, oh, actually, I hadn't thought of that, but now I'm panicked about that too. Then let me know. But yeah, they're all really normal things to worry about. They're certainly things that when I was like an outgoing president, I was very worried about. I was convinced that it was all on me, and if I didn't get this sorted, then I was a failure, which is so totally not true. At every step of the day, and you're going to get sick of me saying this, but we're here to help you. It's not on you if you can't get a committee or you can't get the size of committee that you want. it's a tough year. It's been a tough year for a little while now, but more than ever, you know, it's going to be hard to fill those positions. It's going to be hard to motivate people. That's certainly not all on you, and there are things that we can help you with, and things that we can hopefully tips and tricks to provide you with today, and then resources to kind of send you on your way with that will really help you and reassure you. And of course, we will have lots of kind of check-ins. You've got your Marrow steward, you've got your national steward. If you want to talk to any of them, because the difficulty with this is that every SU is different, every Marrow group is different. So that one-on-one time that we as the Marrow team will be like reaching out to you guys and asking you for calls in the coming few weeks. So that's something we can definitely focus on in those calls to really give you like a bespoke set of advice for how to deal with your specific situation. So please do utilize them. Because obviously with something like this, we need to be a bit broader so that we can hit everyone's worries and concerns and stuff. So the things that we're planning to run through is what is a sustainable group, how to do elections and AGMs, some scenarios that might be keeping you up at night, recruiting freshers, handovers, and how to do them, what to include, and then a Q&A at the end. So a sustainable group is, you know, does what it says on the tin. Groups that keep going year after year, even after their current members graduate. One of the things that I know worried me when I was in Marrow was that kind of statement of one of your committee's responsibilities is to leave your Marrow group in a better place than when you started. That's not something we're trying to like impose on you at all this year. This year, I mean, when I've spoken to a lot of people, I'm kind of seeing it as like a just keep swimming sort of a year of like, if you can keep it afloat, if you can keep it alive, and then next year or maybe the year after, depending on COVID, if people can start to build and grow things bigger, then you have left it in an incredible place, because you are ensuring that, you know, that in future years it can develop, and you're going to be absolutely integral to that. But it's not your responsibility to, you know, maybe you came in with 3 committee members, it's not your responsibility to end with 10 next year at all. So 3 steps to sustainability: volunteer recruitment and retention. I know some of you have got your refreshers fairs coming up, so hopefully that will be a great chance for you to reach out to volunteers. If that's already happened, then make sure that you are keeping in constant communication with them. Obviously, electing a strong committee is going to be the real key, and then providing a good handover. So we do have resources on how to make sure you don't miss anything in that handover. So leaving next year's committee in a really solid place to get started. So elections and AGMs, the objectives that we want is to have a president and hopefully a few core committee roles, and just to know that you can reach out to us, you can always talk to us. So the president role going forwards this year is essentially going to be someone that the Marrow team, that National Marrow can keep in contact with, so that we know we can help you and provide any support you need. If you can have a couple more members, that's amazing. The core committee roles really is about making sure that you hit those targets that the SU sets for you. Maybe you need 3 committee members. If you just have 1 person going into next year, can you use a couple friends? Can you use a couple course mates where you go, I just need your email address, you don't actually have to do anything, and then we'll hand this over to someone else as soon as you can. If you have that, then that's fantastic. And then with communication, I will be banging on about this the entire time, but please talk to us. We do really want to help you, and we do have some ways of making sure that even if there is no one at your uni's Marrow group next year, that we can keep the social media alive, so that if anyone's interested, they see an active social media presence and they go, oh, maybe I'll get involved. So we can keep it alive, but we need those logins. So start thinking about who's going to be running for election. So do you have any star volunteers at the moment? Is there anyone already on committee that you think would be great? Is there, even if it's a volunteer who started recently or someone who starts from refreshers? So my day one, for example, was, oh, this looks like an interesting society. They need a social media person. I'll join committee today. And I obviously got sucked in. I obviously love it. Like people like Neela, they basically came in at president level. Loads of people, you know, it might seem too much too soon. And I'm sure some of you sitting here kind of came in at committee level from day one. So if it seems like too much too soon, obviously that person is perfectly within their rights not to take that role on, but make sure you are offering it, even if it seems like maybe it's a little bit too soon. Maybe it's something they'd like to do and they just need that push from you to be like, oh, actually, they have faith in me that I could do this. So make sure you are having those conversations. And if anyone is staying on, that's fantastic. We only need one person to stay on. Obviously, it'd be great to have more, but we only need one person to stay on for there to be a Mara committee. In Auntie and Olam's eyes, obviously your SU is a little bit different. But does that person have any friends, any course mates who might like to get involved? I, for instance, filled my committee with 4 people who didn't really want to get involved. And then 3 days in, they were just like, oh, actually, please don't re-advertise this. I quite like this. I want to stay. So you never know. You might get a scenario like that. And then is there anyone who you could encourage to apply? So do you have a med school that you could reach out to and post an advert on Facebook, or if they have a newsletter or something? Any friends and housemates, as I said, and any freshers who may want to get involved in something, because this year they haven't really had that much of a chance to get, you know, involved in loads of activities. Is there anyone who's just like really, really wanting to do something and they just don't know where to start? Freshers are a great option. I mean, I know that I've run a few events recently where people have signed up to the register and got really excited about it. And I said, actually, you know what? We have volunteering opportunities. Do you want to get involved too? And it's not something that had really occurred to them because this year they haven't really had many opportunities. So every time you're signing someone up, if you've got the time, if you've got the capacity, make sure you're chatting to them about volunteering as well. And with that kind of med students one, advertising to other students, just think about how you get your information from the uni, whether it's through newsletters that lecturers send to you, whether it's through social media. However you consume your news and information about the uni, those are the channels that other people are consuming it on as well. So just try and get on those channels. It may seem like a long shot, but just ask. Asking can't hurt. If they say no, they say no. If they say yes, then that's fantastic. So obviously different groups have different needs. One thing to ask yourself, if you're in the lucky position of being able to have a look at what the structure of your committee looks like, is the structure working? Do you need to add or remove any roles? Things like freshers reps and welfare and outreach, they're really lovely roles to have, but they are not necessarily your core roles. So if anyone is on one of those, could they come in and be like donor recruitment or the fundraising person, for instance? It's a very lovely problem to have though. So it might not be your first priority at the moment. We would say as a, perfect base structure, ideal world, small committee, this is what your Mara committee would look like. You'd have a president, you'd have a donor recruitment coordinator, and you'd have a fundraising coordinator. And for the sake of unis, a lot of them will say you want 3 people on committee. So you can have a chair, a secretary, and a treasurer, and then that will hit your uni requirements. And they can fulfill those duties as the uni sees fit. But for you guys, they are actually your president, donor recruitment, and fundraising. Just chop and change as you need to, as the uni needs you to. And it's also worth chatting to them. Lots of SUs I know can be tricky to get in contact with. They can be a little bit frustrating or very frustrating looking at some of your faces. But for those that are actually good and willing to give you their time, if you can maybe set up a meeting with them to explain your circumstances, they might be willing to be a little bit lenient in it. They might even be willing to help you with outreach to try and get people onto a committee. For those of you that have irritating SUs, sometimes it helps to have an external person email them. The Mara team are going to be more than happy if you need us to send them an email or give them a call to jog them in some way. Let us know and we can absolutely do that. So if you're a medium-sized committee, this would be an amazing situation to be in, where you have got a president, a donor recruitment coordinator, fundraising coordinator, maybe including treasurer, a volunteering coordinator, maybe including secretary, and a social media coordinator. That would be incredible. But if you don't have that many people, social media can be absorbed by everyone. You can maybe rotate it throughout the group, or even maybe that's something that you give to a volunteer. Maybe they want to get more involved, but the idea of being a specific committee member, that feels like too much responsibility. Maybe that title scares them, but actually the job itself is something they would really enjoy. So if they maybe don't want the label, but they would like to help a little bit more, then maybe that's one avenue that you could explore. So this is, you know, your big Marrow groups, your absolutely blue sky thinking, wonderful, ideal situation. This would be fantastic. Though from what you've said, I doubt this is, you know, the structure that you guys will be having next year, but maybe this is maybe like a 3-year time goal to pass on in your handover of like, in 3 years time, this is where we'd like this Marrow group to be. This is what I want my legacy to be. Maybe that's something you include. This is a really great structure. So 2 donor recruitment coordinators, for instance, halves the workload for one person. So again, maybe if someone is a little hesitant about becoming committee because they think it's too much responsibility, maybe you can say, well, could you and a friend do it together? Or could you and this person maybe split the responsibility? Potentially if someone's on placement, then they have a certain time period where they're at the uni, they're happy to do it, and then they hand over to someone else when they are away on placement. There's loads of ways that you can chop it and change it to suit your committee and suit your volunteers. If there's a slight kind of niggling point, that means that they're just a little bit hesitant. But again, this is going to be so unique to each one of your committees. With elections, obviously these are going to be coming up very, well, not very soon, but they'll feel like they're very soon. So it's good to get started on this as soon as possible and advertise those positions as soon as possible in group chats, in Facebook groups, on the SU Instagram page if you're allowed to. Maybe if you've got an event coming up, ask the SU if you can do an Insta Stories takeover that day. Make it really fun, make it look really engaging. And at the end, plug that you'll be doing elections in March, April time. You never know who might be watching. It might be the exact person you need. The kind of voting system is up to you guys or your SU or whoever kind of, if they make you go through a certain system, then go through that system. If you're allowed to choose what you guys want to do, then just make sure that it is anonymous and anonymized, and make sure that you invite all your volunteers along. Sometimes it can be really nice if you have capacity to invite your volunteers personally, so sending out a Facebook message or a text or whatever it be, to make them feel really valued, like, oh, actually they really want me to come along to this. Might be that push that they need to come along to the elections. So some scenarios, no president. So again, this is going to depend on the reasons for it. Does no one want to take on the responsibility? Does no one have the time? So this might be a Sheffield Hallam situation potentially, where there's no one person that feels that they want to take it on. Maybe you could have co-presidents, or maybe you could have someone with the title of interim or vice president that is sort of hierarchically, I suppose, underneath the Sheffield Uni president, but they are the one that's, you know, the Sheffield Uni president, for instance, kind of lets them know exactly what to do if they don't want to make those decisions, but it is still their thing. And in terms of their uni, they are still the one that's making those decisions. They are still the one that is going through everything with the SU, but they have that extra support. Is no one available with the right experience? That doesn't necessarily matter. We have had so many people. So Ellen, for example, the current president of National Marrow, day one, she was president of Birmingham. From that point, she made Birmingham bigger, better. She, you know, basically doubled their donor recruitment. She did amazing. So if you think that someone doesn't necessarily have the right experience, that's not necessarily the worst case. We've got loads of training, we've got loads of support available. We can kind of go through a lot with that person, maybe in the summer beforehand or in the September, to train them up to be someone that you feel confident taking on that role. There's a lot of support there if you do need it. If no one is standing for election, you could ask friends and housemates to nominate people, and maybe just focus on 3 core positions if that's less of a kind of an issue to fill. One of the things that works for some groups is if the president says at the next committee meeting, right? Can everyone try and find someone to fill their position? So each person only has responsibility for finding one person who gets nominated, rather than potentially you as president feeling like you need to find 5 people. Maybe someone does actually have someone in mind that you guys aren't aware of. As long as you can remain affiliated, we can always get that new committee in September. We can always fill it with freshers. That is a possibility. For some of your groups, so Becky, you are in the position, being in London, that we have lots of London Marrow groups. Maybe it's a case of SOAS and St George's and UCL kind of team up a little bit and run those events together, support each other. Obviously, for the rest of you, I'm sorry that that isn't the case, but maybe that's an option for London units, for instance. Is it something where right now you can put out on your social pages to your volunteers? We'd love it if everyone brings a friend to their next event, someone that's maybe never married before. Bring them along, see what they think of it. They might fall in love with it. You guys did. So they might fall in love with it, and they might be someone ready and waiting to become your next committee. As we said before, potentially opening committee up to non-marrowers is something that you could do. We'll provide the training. You guys know about all the benefits to marrowing. I'm sure you can tell people about it for ages of how great you've found as an experience. The fact that you're still here and you're doing it, you are the best endorsement, really. If you're chatting to people about why you love it, that is often enough to make someone think, this sounds amazing. This is something that I would really, really want to do. So scenario 3, an inexperienced committee. This is where lots of training resources come in. We've obviously got conferences, we've got recordings, we've got support from National, we've got support from the Marrow team. There's lots and lots there that we can do to support an inexperienced committee. If, say, Miles, for instance, you're leaving and you're a little bit nervous about them, you think they maybe need some extra support, fine, flag it to us at the end of the year and we will make sure to check in with Bangor Marrow a little bit more frequently than we would on a normal year, potentially. Scenario 4, so no committee. If you have no one, if you've exhausted all your options, that's fine. In a year like this, it's bound to happen to some groups, and while that doesn't feel good for you guys, it's not the end of the world at all. Just please stay in touch with us. Please give us your social media logins. That's something that we can then carry on for you guys. And as I said earlier, if there's an active social media presence for your Marrow groups and someone comes looking and they see that there's still an active presence, they might want to restart that group. And it's also something where we've got templates. We can post in loads of freshers groups. We can advertise on the SU web pages. That's definitely something that we can take over from you guys. So it's not ever going to fall on your shoulders. It's not ever going to be solely your responsibility. So please don't worry. It is my literal job to support you. And it's also my absolute pleasure to support you because you're all fantastic. So recruiting freshers. You guys were freshers not that long ago. You're still young. You know what you saw when you were joining uni. You know what kind of groups you're part of, or where people were getting their information that summer before they started uni. Look for those groups. Like, just share everything as far and as wide as you can to as many people. Attend all the fairs, get booked in as soon as possible. If it is one of those situations where you think there's going to be no committee for next year, if you can book in Freshers Fair for us, we can go to that. We can man a stall there and we can get a new, a new mailing list that we can then interact with regularly, even if it's just some social media stuff for the first few months before they're confident enough. Do those lecture shout outs. I know that they can be daunting. If you need any help with them, we can provide scripts, we can provide slides, but lecture shout outs are a really great way of getting people involved. They're a literal captive audience. They can't run away from you in that moment. So it's a great place to just shout about Marrow. There's also obviously lots of newsletters that people will read and consume. Like I said earlier, a lot of it is about where do you consume your news from uni. Try and get in those places. Doesn't hurt to ask. Welcome packs, that is something that's worth chatting to your SU about now. We all know SUs can be very, very, very slow. So you start emailing them now. maybe you will get a reply soonish and you can start that process. And also if you guys are the first ones to try and get into your welcome pack, you have a much better chance of the next person and the person after that from getting in, because you're the first ones to ask, so you're going to be on their radar. It's always worth asking. And of course we've got freebies that if they say, well, we want to put a pen or a badge or whatever in these welcome packs, ask us. We probably can't provide thousands, but we can probably provide several hundred. So if you want freebies to put in those, then let us know. We can find a way of doing that. Right, I'm very, very conscious of time. You have to get to your next session in literally 1 minute. So what I'm going to do now is just quickly run through benefits. So there's things like the Daisy Ball, which you can potentially be invited to if you have done particularly kind of exceptionally in a year as a Mara group. Obviously hasn't been running for the last few years, but there's things like conferences and Daisy Balls and events that you can go to. There's lots of careers prospects through Marrow, as I'm sure lots of you know. We've got lots of kind of handouts and resources that I will send to you after this, but there's a big long list of specific committee roles and the skills that you gain from that. So that's definitely something to shout about. But yeah, what I'm going to do now is I will send you through that guidance at the end, well, on Monday, so you don't miss out on those booklets that I was talking about. And right now I'm just going to open it up to any questions, any thoughts. Obviously this is a very, very fast session. Anyone got anything they want to say before the end? And also I'll stop recording.